Cool. All right. Thanks for joining us tonight, guys. Realty One Stop Mastermind. We're going to be interviewing Anderson Morgan on a deal. He's working here in Cincinnati. Going to be breaking down the numbers, how he found it, and all the due diligence he's done with the deal so far. So I think it'll be valuable for a lot of the investors here who are looking to get into some of the deeper value add type of deals. And this is also pretty interesting mixed use space that he's going to break down. So I'll turn it over to him here. And when you're ready, Anderson, just start by telling us a little bit about the deal, where it's at, and how you found it.
So I live in this, if anyone's familiar with Cincinnati, I live in this town called Reading. It's like kind of right off the Deer Park, Silverton, kind of all that area. All right, so is my screen shared right now, or do I gotta manually do it?
Nope, yeah, you gotta add it.
All right. Let's see.
So
So
option at the bottom.
the thing I'm in this other mastermind that focuses on commercial. And one of the things they talk about is like when you see a deal that's mismarketed, or specifically a commercial deal that is marketed by a residential agent that might not know what they're doing. So I got this email. I'm an agent as well, same brokerage Joe's at. I got myself set up for the automatic alerts to get something that as soon as it hits the market, I get an email. So I got this email, $420,000, right on Benson Street, which is the main like drag in Reading, where like all the bars, restaurants. If anyone's familiar with the area, it's like the bridal capital of the Midwest. So like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, especially if it's nice and warm out, like you just see a ton of like girls that just got engaged and their friends and their mom like walking around. So I don't know if this lit. So when I first got it, there was no information on here. There's 0 pictures. All it said was 3 parcels, a little bit of information on the property, this gross income and all this stuff. None of that was on here, which is like the main part of commercial or apartments. You want to know what kind of revenue it's doing. So I tried to schedule a showing right away and they declined it. And then like said, can you schedule for like the next day in the afternoon? I'm like, shit, like I don't want to miss this. So I drove by it, kind of liked what I saw. And then I like dug in online like this. So the first floor is basically 2 storefronts, with the left side is a vape shop. The right side is the owner of the building. He has a construction business and they currently occupy it. He's not paying much rent. I think he's on paper, he's paying $800, which is way, way under market. But he would basically be selling the building. We also found out he had a stroke. So that's like his reason behind wanting to sell is he's kind of cashing out and, semi-retiring. So anyway, the second floor is another like 6,000 square feet, like kind of all in this shape. It's kind of set up.
We're looking at your email still.
Oh, you're not in the pictures at all?
Nope.
All right, give me a second.
So did he ever on the listing, did he ever add
like
the photos
2 days later?
Okay.
You
might have to change which screen you're showing at the bottom.
So this is what
there you go.
The place looks like. The first
okay
storefront on the left is a vape shop. Right side is the space he occupies. Then there's an entrance here to the second floor and an entrance over off the parking lot for the second floor. I didn't mention it yet, but this also comes with a 20 space parking lot, which like down in Reading, like just me knowing the area, like having a parking lot is huge. So this is what the whole second floor looks like currently. It's set up to almost be like office space is what he intended. But I walked through it. Joe happened to be in the area like as I was about to walk through it. It's like, hey, wait for me, I'll go through it with you. So me, him, and my wife went through it, and like immediately we like knew like, damn, this is like a great find. So here's one of the entrances off the main street. This is the storefront the guy occupies right now. I think the most employees I've ever seen there, he's got like two like secretary office workers. And then he comes in and occasionally I drive by it all the time. My kids go to school right down the street. And I've seen him in there a handful of times. This is the vape shop. Vape shop, I
What'd you say
believe.
the vape shop was paying?
Say that again.
What's the rent? What was the rent on the vape shop?
They're paying 1,500. So another way they mismarketed is I just got a copy of the lease yesterday or the day before. So this residential agent that has this property listed, I think he's like by default, he's the commercial guy in his office. So I kind of found out that the owner of the building and construction business, he decided he wanted to sell, so he just reached out to like a family friend who is a real estate agent. Well, she mainly does residential, so she says, "Oh, I know a guy in my office that can do commercial." So that's how they got the listing. But really, I don't believe they're, you know, it seems like he doesn't know what he's doing. The property was totally mismarketed, I believe. So the vape shop that's in there now, I just got a copy of their lease. It's triple net. If anyone knows what triple net is, basically they're responsible for everything. They're responsible for property taxes based on their square footage of the whole building. Their square footage prorated out. They're responsible for the insurance for the building, their HVAC system, all their utilities. So that wasn't marketed either, which usually if something's marketed as triple net, like people are willing to pay more for that.
Yeah, just to touch on that, when you see like if anyone looks at LoopNet, if you see like a Starbucks or for example for sale and they're marketing as like a 5 or 6 cap, that obviously on paper doesn't sound like a great return at a 5 or 6 cap, but you're literally buying a fully turnkey operating business that whatever your profit margin is, your NOI is straight profit, right? Because they are paying literally every other possible expense that can come up. So that's why those cap rates are so compressed typically.
So I was trying to say before, but I don't think I was screen sharing this gross income, all that. None of this was uh on the listing. The first, I don't know, three. I probably had it under contract before he uploaded this stuff.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah. Anyway, I went through it. Joe went through with me, my wife, and we like realized we had a great deal. Jumped on it, wrote an offer, had it expire the next morning at 10 a.m. They didn't really respect that, but they came back like maybe 1 o'clock and said, "Hey, we'll accept your offer." And that's kind of when I got to work on it in terms of like, so the second floor is 6,500 square feet, which quick math, if you have 6 units at 1,000 square feet or less, you still have room for, 500 feet to have that walkway you need, or I don't know what you call it in apartments, corridor,
Yeah, hallway, whatever. Yeah, common area.
hallway. Yeah. So basically, these numbers represent the way I've done my pro forma. The left side is a as is number. The middle is kind of a stress test if I go over budget, and I get less than ideal rents out of every unit. And then the right side is what I believe I can get, maybe slightly on the higher end, but that's what I'm shooting for. So as is, paying 420 for it, 20% down payment. I was quoted 6 3/4 rate. I don't know if that could change based on what came out today or not. The vape shop is paying 1,500 a month right now. They have 2.5 years left on their lease. I don't have this over here yet. So then this is all the taxes. That would be my insurance rate that I was roughly quoted. The gas and electric, I think, are what he said he pays. That would obviously shoot up or change once I get the apartments built out upstairs. So it's not a great deal right now. And this is the number I'm going to try to negotiate back because he wants to potentially stay for a couple of months while they find other office space. Because that basically puts me, just above break even. Um,
Yeah, but that's break even with 6 vacant units upstairs, right?
yes, yes.
Okay.
But that's not including any of my rehab funds either, you know, that's
Right,
just,
right. That's just the purchase price, yeah.
yeah. So basically my plan is build out 6 units upstairs. I went through it with my plumber today. Been through it with my architect, met with City of Reading about the zoning, the like rezoning it for residential apartments versus office.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about that? What is the requirements? How did that process work with you meeting with them?
So I know the Reading Building Department a little bit just from previous, like I built a house in Reading that I live in. I've dealt with them a lot just over with that because it's kind of a complicated deal. Um, this is all like kind of in the works still, so nothing's confirmed. My architect's got a phone call scheduled with the building inspector. The big question right now is because it's a mix of commercial down low and residential above, there may be a chance I have to sprinkler system the whole building. But when I met with the Reading inspector the other day, he said, hey, existing buildings have a right to exist. You're not required to always bring everything 100% up to code. My architect kind of agrees with him, but also sees a different part of the code that might mean I do. So they're supposed to talk and work it out. I'm hoping we don't have to because that could be up to like $100,000 system. Hopefully it would be less than that, but that's kind of that's like worst case scenario, I believe. So yeah, my purchase price 420. I'm figuring I can do my rehab. Can you see this rehab budget if I click over?
Yeah.
So I have this rehab budget that's kind of rough numbers right now. Still got to like fine tune that, but it comes out to about 465, and then I got a $35,000 contingency for a total rehab of 500. And that's broken down by pretty much line item. I don't know if this is totally. No, this is not in order either, which I usually do. So kind of the rough numbers on it are, and I don't, Joe's kind of argued with me on some of this because I'm bugging him about it all the time, that I think I have room to do a bunch of 3-bedroom apartments, which would bring in, I think, $1,600 a month in rent. He's more of a fan of doing a bunch of 2 bedrooms because you'd have less turnover. But I got to play with the numbers a little bit more, and I'm also waiting to see what my architect says is doable. So yeah, basically that one vape shop's going to pay $1,500 a month. Oh, the other thing I didn't talk about yet that it's not really marketed either, but there's a hill on the back side of the whole building. There's like a warehouse kind of garage that the construction company uses for tool storage, and that's really it right now. You could park some trucks in there if you needed to.
What are the dimensions on that garage? I remember it being pretty massive.
I think it's like 2,000 square feet.
Yeah. It's got what, 1 or 2 big doors on it, I think.
It's got one big garage door, but then it gets wider as you go in.
Yeah. Tiwi, you have a question?
Hey Morgan, I was wondering, what is the rough renovation cost per unit, and what kind of finish level do you want to have to attract X type of tenant?
So I haven't really, I guess you could do so $500,000 divided by, that's about $80,000 a unit. But I got to bring everything up there, you know, like there's no plumbing, there's no electric, there's the framing, I'm assuming needs to be all completely redone. Basically all new mechanicals, new HVAC system in each unit. So yeah, that's kind of the big question is how is, but then in my opinion, these will be the nicest apartments that I know of in Reading. Which is kind of, I know it was Joe's theory as well, is if you do the nicest, you'll get the pick of all the tenants. And you can demand more rent, but you'll have pick of all the tenants. So you can, you know, weed people out pretty quick there.
And keep in mind that's a 6,000 square foot space. So that is these are really big apartments.
Yeah, so I looked up some like one couple neighboring apartments have floor plans on Zillow or wherever they're marketed. So I kind of just went rough numbers off that. You know, there's some 3-bedroom apartments that are slightly bigger than 1,000 square feet. I saw a 2-bedroom today that was asking $1,100 and it was only 600 and something square feet, which is really tiny.
Hey, quick question. When you're factoring in the 6,000 and being divvied up, how much are you factoring in for loft space for like common space like hallways, um, closets, etc.?
I believe I need 400 or 4 feet wide and the building's about 100 feet long. So I'm just using the rule of thumb of 500 square feet just to do. If the upstairs is like 6,500 square feet, I got 6,000 square feet worth of apartments I can do. That might not be totally accurate. It could be off by several hundred square feet, but that's just kind of rough numbers I'm playing with in my head. Until my architect puts it on paper and tells me what I actually got room for and all that, that's just kind of how I'm going off of. And I've stress tested it, you know, like where if I have to lose 1 unit and do 5 units instead of 6, or do all 2 bedrooms versus couple threes. I've looked at it. I'm obsessed with this. I've looked at it every way.
There's a there was a really good app I downloaded for like $5. I'd have to look it up what it was called, but when I was doing floor plans for my 3 unit, kind of like Joe's from 2 weeks ago, it was super helpful for me because it has like this dimensions of actual like ranges and fridges, and you can just like throw them on real quick, and then I would actually literally just like walk it, get the actual measurement. Like, okay, this is my rough um, size for the box, and then I can just kind of rough in everything to help solidify my understanding of stuff. So
Yeah, so I kind of did that today. I was on site with my plumber because there's a couple stacks roughed in. I'm like, hey, is this going to be enough? What else would we need? Like, do you see this being a problem? And basically we like kind of said, all right, this could be a unit. And really where the offices are framed right now, they kind of have it broken up to where I would probably break it up maybe with some slight alterations, but like today was the first time I walked it and thought, all right, this is a unit, this is a unit, and it kind of all makes sense. Where I think I can do the 3 bedrooms, as many 3 bedrooms as I'm thinking, versus and then a couple 2 bedrooms.
Yeah, and now when you walked it today, were you considering that most of the hallway layout would stay intact? Because that was kind of my assumption when I looked at it.
Yeah, it's actually like it was like 68 inches wide. When I measured today, it only needs to be 48 inches. I don't know if that's drywall to drywall or stud to stud, but you know, I could bring in each side 10 inches and still be at code.
Gotcha. Just to pick up that extra space.
Yeah, and one side is like a foot bigger than the other, so maybe you just bring in one side to like make it symmetrical or whatever. But I'm at this point I'm planning on reframing everything and just doing whatever the architect puts on paper.
Yeah. Angela?
Yeah, thanks for sharing, man. What's your estimated cash on cash return on this project? I'm
So
just
sorry,
curious.
I probably haven't scrolled down, but um as is, it's not great. Um Stress test, it's not great. Fully built out, stabilized, it's about 40%. And then the big question is how they're going to value this in terms of the appraisal on it being mixed use. They don't normally go with cap rate, from what I understand. It's normally based on a gross rent multiplier, which is like that's on a different spreadsheet.
That's more of like a debt service coverage ratio formula versus an income by cap rate.
Yeah. But I was told, you know, if Joe believes it would be lower than this, but I was told by somebody plan on 10 and hope for better cap rate. I'm thinking it could be as low as like I'm thinking it's gonna be somewhere around 1.5 million, the value afterwards.
Mhm.
Maybe like 1.4, 1.3. And even if it's 1.3, I'm still happy, it's really going to depend on what I can do in terms of the rents I can get.
And how are you financing your rehab?
I'll do 20% of the whole purchase price. So 20% of 920 is 184. I get a 3% commission on this. So this is like my number. I have to bring the closing. And then, basically it's probably gonna be, I don't know what closing costs are gonna be yet, but I'm figuring I gotta bring 184 to closing, and then they want as much as like 6 months to a year of reserves in my account. But they also factor in whatever income I'll have monthly, which could be, $4,000 or so. So that's what I'm working through with the lender right now. And I'm talking to 2 or 3 lenders, trying to feel out each one and, who likes it the most, and maybe play them against each other a little bit to get the best terms. But I really like the lady Joe used on his apartment deal down in Clifton. She's definitely winning the race right now.
Brian, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna, did you mention that you were thinking the 3 units would have a higher turnover than a 2 unit?
Yeah, that's Joe's theory.
Well,
I
let me clarify that a little bit, because I wasn't going to stop you when you said it earlier. But basically, my theory on 3 versus 2, and like why I look for 2 as kind of a sweet spot when I'm buying, is because not necessarily turnover. It's with 3s, you're typically going to have 2 types of clientele. You're either going to have families that can't buy. So, they're typically lower income families, single mom, single dad, whatever, right? And now you're talking about typically a handful of kids. Okay. The problem with that is wear and tear and utility costs, right? If you have 6 people, which is the HUD guideline maximum for that, 6 people in a unit versus 4 at the most, that's going to add a lot of wear and tear and utility costs. So that's one reason. But 2, I find that 2 units are my best tenant class, right? And Reading's like one of the C+ type of neighborhoods. That's where you're going to get young professionals. There's actually more turnover with 2s, but to me, you're getting a much better tenant. Like you're going to get somebody fresh out of college, somebody who has a car, somebody that has a good job. They're going to be able to afford that higher rent base that you can get in Reading. Typically, if you're dealing with 3+ beds, you're talking about people on lower income, Section 8, or they might be market tenants, but they might have 4 kids, right? So again, that's just my personal preference on why I look for 2 beds.
Interesting. Thanks.
So yeah, I see that side of it too, but I also just see how can I maximize this space as much as possible. And I think I got the square footage to do it. I don't know if I could squeeze a 7th unit in. If I were to downsize, 2 or 3 of the units. Again, I'm kind of leaning on my architect to figure that out, but this is just my initial kind of game plan. And it could be way different, that finished product could be way different than I'm thinking, but I think I got plenty of room to give and this still be a good deal.
Yeah, I mean, if you're breaking even with your only 2 commercial units occupied, that sounds like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, but that doesn't include the build out price of, you're talking about this over here.
Right. I'm saying just initial holding cost of your initial plan.
Yeah. I just got a text. My dad is quoting my insurance. He has an insurance company. This property is in a 500 year flood zone. He said most lenders don't care about that or expect you to carry flood insurance for that. So, but that was just, a message I got today that I have to jump through that hoop now.
So anything else that you wanted to add that we hadn't discussed? I do have a couple follow-up questions, but is there anything else that we hadn't talked about?
I don't know if you guys have talked about entity transfers before, but that's something I'm looking to do. I haven't negotiated that yet with the seller. I talked to the title agency about it. They said it's an easy sell usually to the seller because it saves them money. They don't have to pay a transfer tax.
Yeah, conveyance tax.
Um, Joe, my plumber today was talking to me about, he said Moen makes a meter that you can install per unit. Are you familiar with that at all?
Yeah, yeah, like a rubs type of system. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I believe you're not allowed to make money on that, but you can charge them exact or slightly less, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Basically, you're just billing back their prorated use.
Do you have
I-
any idea what that costs to install per meter?
I don't. I've never done it, and the reason why is I don't. I haven't found it to be majorly beneficial, and the reason why is because 90+% of apartments in Cincinnati are landlord paid water,
Right.
and if you're going to ask a tenant to pay a prorated water cost, then it's basically they're just going to look at that versus the cost of rent. And really, the only benefit of it at all is that they may be more mindful of use because, if they have the subconscious thought of, hey, if I waste water, I'm going to pay more. I mean,
Yeah.
just kind of like, the benefit of separating out heat. But because it's so untypical, I've never bothered with the added cost of trying to separate out water lines and
Right.
meters.
The only other benefit my plumber kind of gave me on it was, if you got a large building, which this isn't that large, but if you got, 6 or 12 bathrooms or whatever, and you get 1 month where there's a really high water bill, like somebody's toilet is running constantly, you can kind of quickly figure out, all right, it's this
Yeah.
toilet.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I never thought of that.
I looked into this and it was surprisingly affordable.
Yeah.
I don't have the numbers on me off the top of my head because it was like 2 years ago. But I remember it was like $75 to $120 um, for the installation, and then it
Yeah.
was like all they needed was like access to a Wi-Fi, and then that just is a repeater, and then they have a like an online dashboard that renters can just pay directly. And it was really, I don't quote me on this, but I thought it was like $30 a month or something. Like it seemed pretty damn reasonable.
Yeah.
It might have been even cheaper than that. And there was two main companies that I looked into on it. I could look it up if you're interested.
Yeah, he was acting like it might be a system you buy one time. But he's just a plumber. He's not, he only knows what he's heard, or he's not super familiar with it. He's just telling me I should look into it. But he is a smart guy and I trust him. So I'm gonna, but like Joe said, it seems like everyone I know, like, or every listing I ever look at, it says tenant pays gas and electric, landlord pays water. So it's in my mind, I'm going to be charging top tier rent for the area, and then you throw in they pay electric and heat, and then they also have to pay water. They might like
Yeah,
weed you
sorry,
out based on that.
I found my notes. So it's called True Submeter, and it's $65 per submeter, and then it's $5.90 per month per apartment for billing and for the router and everything. Or the other option is flows.com, and they are $1,200 one time upfront cost.
Yeah, 1,200.
Yeah.
I mean so theoretically, if the water bill per unit is 100, I don't know, Joe, what would you expect this building to be water per month?
Their rating is on Cincinnati water.
Yes.
You're probably looking at, well, to two commercial units, it depends on how much they use, but I can't imagine they use a ton. Just
They're not.
bathrooms.
They're using less than residential.
Right. So yeah, let's just basically consider this an 8 unit. $400, $500 a month, maybe something like that.
That's what I have it on my pro forma.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it'd be. I mean, my 28 unit, all one bed and two beds is like 1,100 a month. So should be less than half of that.
So theoretically, 400 a month at 1,200 per unit, that pays for itself in like a year and a half. That system. if you were to go that route.
Well, that's if you get the same rent and bill back.
Yes, yeah.
But if you're not getting the same rent because they're paying water, then you don't get that benefit.
Right.
Gage?
Hey Anderson, so are both of the bottom floors going to be filled? You've got the vape shop in one for a year, and then what about the other side?
We've talked about, my wife wants to do something with the one storefront, that kind of combine. I'm also a general contractor. We do a lot of kitchens and bathrooms. We started off flipping houses, kind of whole house remodels. She wants to kind of do something. I might use the warehouse kind of for that. If I can rent it for a decent amount, I might just rent it. The other storefront, we might do something ourselves with. We're not sure. But she has the idea to do some kind of coffee shop, do something like down there that like kind of complements the wedding industry. Whether like she had the idea of like children's clothing. She went to school for at UC's DAP program for fashion design and product development. So she's got an eye for all that stuff where I don't really. And she's been wanting to do this for a long time, and I think it's finally time we make it happen.
Okay, nice. Yeah, the reason I asked is one, you mentioned a coffee shop. I'm a young professional, and I can say just to be aware of what kind of shops you have underneath of the people. To be honest with you, if I was looking for a place to rent, I might be a little less likely to rent somewhere that has a vape shop beneath me, because I'm going to be less likely to want to bring my friends to there, as a young professionals that kind of, want to be proud and stuff for the place they're living, which would be a little bit harder. Just something to be aware of. But if you were able to get like a coffee shop or something that complements the type of tenants you want in there, that could be a huge attractor. So just being
Honestly, the vape shop is not an ideal tenant. I agree with you on that. It's actually causing issues too with getting insurance. Like one insurance provider basically denied my broker and said, we don't touch anything with vape, hookah, or smoke shop, or something else along those lines. So the bad part is they got 2.5 years left on their lease, and it's below market. I think I could get $2,000 for that unit because it's almost 2,000 square feet. So yeah, they're not an ideal tenant, but I got to work with what I got for now. If they ever approached me and said, hey, we might want out of our lease, I might work with them on something. Or honestly, I'm new to this, so I'm still figuring it out as we go. But then, like I kind of mentioned earlier, that whole street is just littered with like wedding dress shops, so anything that I feel like that complements that would do well. My wife's already like reached out on social media to some of the owners and people trying to ask what other people think would do well. And there's never really been like a good coffee shop.
What about a bakery, wedding cake? What about that?
There's a couple of those down there already.
There are there. Okay.
Yeah. There's like one like coffee shop, kind of like brunch place, but it's kind of run down, and like, it's like a mom and pop like shop that's probably barely, like, they probably own nothing on the building, so they don't got to bring in much revenue. So I think anything we do there would probably be the nicest thing on the block.
One strategy you could also always do is go to other areas that have successful businesses on the bottom floor that you would like to see in that area, and just cold call them, or just go in, introduce yourself, let them know you got a storefront. If they want to expand to the next town over, that's a pretty successful strategy for like main streets and stuff like that. So
yeah, I could see that working. So this area too, like, part of the reason I'm excited about this deal is like I feel like this area is like ripe for redevelopment. Like there's a vacant building across the street that I just found out like my dad is friends with the owner of, and he runs a HVAC business out of like one of these like 7 buildings, and the other 7 buildings are like vacant and like just not being used for anything right now. So I'm gonna approach that guy about trying to purchase however many he'd be willing to sell, in the next couple years. Like maybe sooner than later, as soon as I'm kind of finishing up this one, try to line one of those up to be my next big project.
Kiwi?
Hey, yeah, I was wondering if you already checked if it's in an opportunity zone. I was just kind of looking at it and like the map is kind of crummy, but I think there's like an 80% chance it's in an opportunity zone. I don't know all the tax benefits with that, but
I don't think Reading is. I'd have to look, but I don't think Reading is.
Yeah, I'd have to look.
well, I popped it in the chat, or at least one map I found. It kind of looks like it is, but maybe something.
I could see Laughlin or Arlington Heights being in it.
Laughlin's like the next town over that
And it's
is,
right by the border too.
yeah, like I'm right on the edge.
I mean, yeah, there's some challenges with the opportunity zone too, because I'd have to remember all the stipulations. It's been a while since I read up on it, but you have to. There's quite a bit of hoops you have to jump through to take advantage of it.
To oversimplify it, doesn't it kind of work like a 1031 exchange?
Yeah, kind of,
But
but
it's
I don't.
really-
But I don't
it
think
always
you can
has to be
actually sell
business.
it. I don't think you can actually sell it for a certain amount of time. And also you have to not only pay like the depreciation recapture, you have to repay the basically all the tax savings that you get from the program over time. It's kind of like I said, it's hard to explain, and it's been probably a year since I read up on it, but yeah, it's not nearly as easy as some people make it sound. Okay, so a couple questions I had still. So far in your couple weeks you've been working on this, what is the biggest challenge been on the due diligence and trying to put this together?
Honestly, the other agent's been like a pain in the ass. Like it's like he's afraid to approach the seller about questions I have. Says, "Oh yeah, I'll check with him and get back to you." And it's like, hey man, I'm trying to get answers to these questions because I need them for underwriting. I need them for my insurance. I need them to figure out, if they're going to lease back. I got to tell that to my lender. If they're going to want to do a lease back. And then just like I have 30 days due diligence, which I'm only probably about 2 weeks in as of Friday. So, and Joe, I'm probably bugging you because I'm calling you every day with new questions and stuff. I'd say what's great about this experience is like just using my network to get questions answered that I'd be struggling with without. And that goes back to like if somebody calls you to ask you questions, you give them the time hoping that someday someone repays you the same way. So it's just kind of like, help this guy out and hope somebody else helps you out in the future, just because that's how real estate is for the most part, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, it's networking in this business is probably the most important skill you can develop as a real estate investor. Obviously I built relationships with everybody in this chat through networking. We've done deals with a lot of people in this chat. I have clients in this chat, so it's definitely all about building relationships, and a big part of that, and part of like why I do things like this, is because, like you said, if you give back to the people in your network, there's only good things that will grow from that.
Right.
And then maybe, it may not be directly like a 1-for-1, but, Anderson and I have known each other for years and we help each other out all the time. And it's just a symbiotic relationship. And I think that's the goal, is to develop that, with as many people as you can. And obviously there are people out there that don't have good intentions, and you have to be aware of that. But for the most part, 95% of the people I've met in real estate and surrounding real estate have been genuinely good people, just trying to, create wealth and do the right things. So.
Right.
Anything else you want to add? Any other follow-up questions? I think that was mainly what I had covered. I know you're still working on this. I guess give us I don't know, did you already show us the best case scenario on the outcome? Yeah. Walk through that a little bit.
So I was told to like, consider like underwrite this as it's gonna be valued at a 10 cap on the backside. So if I'm all in for 920-ish and it's valued at 135, that's a pretty good
Worst case scenario.
worst case scenario. I've ran all the numbers every which way, and it's like I think it's gonna be close. If I get those rents, I think it's gonna be closer to 1.5, based on how one of the lenders sent me an appraisal, or part of an appraisal, where they did it on a gross rent multiplier, and there's like 4 or 5 comps they used. If you average out all those comps, it was like 9.5. So if I take this total revenue, it's like 1.47 million.
What is the NOI you're projecting?
The
74.
135-ish.
Oh, okay.
And I could be off on that's like with no vacancies. Basically everything's gonna be brand new, so I don't really have much capex. It could be, less than that, but
probably 100 plus.
yes.
Yeah. Yep, that's a pretty incredible deal.
But it's not done yet, but I'm trying not to get too excited about it because something comes up every day that you got to figure out and just work through.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, we appreciate you sharing. Anybody else have any other follow-up questions? Anything we didn't discuss?
Hey, Joe and Anderson. I'm glad you brought up that whole thing about like older owners being tough to deal with. I've experienced that too. Like part of me thinks like it creates a moat around the property because they're so freaking hard to like get details on. And so I was wondering, do you guys think it would be helpful, like even if they don't ask for it, if like you just like submit your first offer in like the form of like an LOI, then you could like specify that like, I want to see a rent roll that includes like move-in dates and move-out dates, and I want to have access by this time to the units, just so that all that stuff is clear before you try to build out the contract. Do you think it'll make a difference either way?
Well, so I bought several off-market direct-to-seller with elderly landlord sellers. And what I've found is that you definitely have to work on their timeline, unfortunately. And like a lot of times, this is like if you're direct to seller, this might be months of work before you're even under contract on something, unfortunately. Now, obviously, it might only be like one conversation back and forth per week, but I don't think they really understand LOIs. I don't think that would necessarily help you. And like in this specific case, this was listed, right? With basically just an incompetent agent. And so that creates two problems, right? Because now you're dealing with a stroke patient, elderly owner, not elderly, but older owner. He's not certainly not young and tech savvy. And then you're dealing with an incompetent agent that's now creating an extra layer of difficulty. But I don't think an LOI would necessarily help you because, and what I found, at least in my direct to seller deals, we've already hashed out everything verbally. Everything's been expressed, explained, discussed, debated to the nth degree, and then we ultimately come, to signing a like a standard contract, board contract. At least in my experience.
So like honestly, I feel like I kind of got lucky on this deal by finding it, jumping on it right away. Like the stars aligned basically. So my plan after this is try to go after. I kind of like the idea of owning in the same area and kind of creating my own market down there. Because I think at some point that area is going to turn. So that's where I'm going to start trying to do direct to seller kind of things to try to take down more deals in that same area.
Yeah, but let me make a point here. Like Anderson didn't get lucky because he was looking every single day at deals, and I knew this because he was calling me every single day asking me questions about deals, and he was aware enough and had enough education and experience to notice that this was listed with a residential agent who had no idea what they were doing. So he can call that lucky, but that is experience and opportunity coming together, right? So I used to think the same thing. I was like, oh man, I can't believe I got the deal. I was lucky. I can't believe this happened. I got lucky. And then I started realizing all these patterns of, well, I'm doing all these things that I need to be doing and things that are helping me be successful. And the act of that process of doing those things every day or every week or every month, just I kept getting lucky over and over and over and over and over. And then you kind of realize from experience that it's not luck, it's preparation and opportunity, and that creates an outcome. So he's humble and he's saying that, but I just want to make a point that like anybody could do this if you're doing the right things. If that hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I would guess
distinction.
just to add to that, like I was ready to jump on it when I found a good deal. Like so I had like, tried to go through it sooner than would let me, because basically sometimes like the first one to attack gets it,
More often than not.
Yeah. So I think that's all I got unless anyone's got questions for me.
I appreciate it. I'm headed down the same path right now, so this is nice to get another perspective of what folks are going through.
All right, if you can pass the host back to me, and then if you're able to, what time is it? If you're able to hang out for a little bit more, we do like a goal update. If you are able to stick with us.
Sure.
If not, it's all good.
I'll do that.
All right, DJ, you want to start us off?
Yep. So been a busy couple of weeks here. So after the last meetup, I talked to Joe about a couple of apartments down in Norwood that were available. So Brian and I went and took a peek at them and submitted an offer. So we've got a accepted offer on them, and we're going through due diligence and stuff right now. So
Congratulations.
I'm extremely stressed out and excited and about every feeling that you can
Stressed out? Why are you stressed out, man?
Just yeah.
I get it. I know.
So no, but it's exciting. So again, the networking comment from before, that's the perfect reason for all this is building the relationships and getting partnerships out of this, getting the deal and stuff. So I think we might expand on the deal a little bit more on the next meeting. So I'll save some of that, but and then so that's kind of the real estate goals and personal stuff. I finished another book, started 2 more, and keeping that rolling too. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I want to expand on there, but like DJ said, we were planning to present that deal in 2 weeks, very similarly to how we did tonight. So if there's any things that you guys think about while until next meeting that you want to talk about, let us know, and then I can make sure to ask those questions when DJ and Brian talk about their deal they're working on. Angela?
Yeah, so just a quick update on the duplex that I got under contract, about 3 weeks ago. Things are progressing well, of course, stressful, right? The couple of days ago, or maybe even yesterday, I don't remember, but I finally got the closing disclosure or whatever from my lender, so that everything's progressing pretty well. So I'm anticipating that. I guess officially a couple of weeks from Friday is when we are supposed to close on that duplex. So again, things are progressing pretty well. And then on my other goals, I started rereading the one book on the managing the rental properties, the one from Bigger Pockets. Right? I read that a while ago, and spending some time right now getting all of my systems set up, right? And then That's pretty much what I'm focusing my time and energy. I've been pretty busy at work, so I haven't really been bothering Joe too much lately, but he's been a lot of help. And again, obviously the mastermind's been helping out a lot too, right? So the networking is definitely something extremely important. But yeah, those are my updates. Close on that property, and then do some minor paint and a few cosmetic upgrades, and then go ahead and move house hack it. Right. So actually, the one question that I got for the group is, my house here in Florence. Obviously, I'm gonna rent it out. Do you guys take pictures with your furniture and decorations and all that, or do you wait until you empty everything and then take pictures? What do you guys normally do before you post it?
I, I'd take pictures with furniture in it, and I would highly recommend getting a professional photographer. My guy that I use, it costs $7 a photo, and I will never have a higher ROI on money spent because that's the first thing everybody sees. And if you don't do that well, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's like, you're just screwing yourself over on so many other levels. Yeah, I think I can. Well, while everybody's still talking here, I think I can throw my photographer's name in the chat.
Yeah, if you can share that with me, Ben, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, echoing what he said. I think that as long as it's kind of tactfully decorated, and what I mean by that is not cluttered and not like super personal, I think that that would kind of help you stage it and help people see how to use the space. So I think that's probably a better way than like waiting until it's totally empty.
Yeah. And then as a follow-up, right? So I mean, how many weeks or months in advance do you guys typically, wait until you list it, right? I mean, it's a few weeks in advance. I mean, of course, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I still got to move all of my stuff out, right? I want to make sure that I'm in a, comfortable position, but I can kind of guesstimate when that timing will work best. But you guys recommend typically a couple of months in advance, or maybe just a month or so. Any thoughts on that?
I'd say at least a month. That's always my goal. My goal is always to get marketing out a month ahead of my availability for it. And if you can do 6 weeks or 8, I don't think it would hurt you either. Because some,
Yeah.
prepared tenants look in advance.
Hmm.
The tenants you typically don't want are the ones looking, a week before they're going to be out of their current place.
Hey man, I'll move in today.
Yeah,
Let me just
yeah.
unload my car. No,
Yeah,
I'm good, man.
that's a
Yeah.
red flag. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I just rented a place for July 1st. So, yeah, it was a bit early, but like I threw it up and I got responses. And I got like a backup applicant that I think I'm going to use for my other property. So,
Nice.
yep, just throwing that out.
Yep. Yeah, obviously it depends on the type of asset, but like, student rentals, we literally do 6 to 8 months in advance, right? So I mean it just depends, but I don't think early will hurt you at all.
Cool. Appreciate the feedback.
All right, Gage.
Yeah, so I think last time we were on here, I was talking about that house I put an offer in on in Dayton, Kentucky. I think I put that offer in at like the end of February. It took them a while to get around, but they did accept it. I single family, and it was a foreclosed home, so it's a little bit of a different situation and scenario. Turns out I do have to live in it for 12 months, so I'm going to turn it into kind of my Cincinnati base while I'm expanding in that area. I really like it. It's right next to, if any of you guys are familiar with that new Manhattan on the River development going on down there. It's like right at the doorstep of that. So I'm looking forward to that. I went and looked around in there the other day. I think they just thought I was a tenant. And they've got some nice stuff there. So it'll be cool to be around there, hopefully. One challenge that did occur with this was when I wrote my offer, I did all the stuff that would make it a better offer, all cash, quick closing, all of that. So I had a 7-day due diligence, and I was anticipating a response from them quicker. So it turns out my due diligence, I had a family trip plan to Park City, Utah. My due diligence period was basically was when I was in Utah during my vacation. So that was a little tough. Luckily, as soon as that began, I was able to get an inspection the next day. So I got most of my, understanding of what I needed to do. And then basically with the rest of my due diligence, I had, like, the inspector said I needed to get the roof checked. So I got the roof checked, got an estimate for cost on what it would take to get the roof redone. Basically got as many estimates as I could for some of the bigger stuff. And then use that for negotiations. Sent that in. They were supposed to get back to me on Monday. They haven't got back to me, so I can also share the little bit of frustration with just, deadlines kind of just being blown off and stuff like that. But trying to stay positive with it, and work on my patience a little bit. I'm not in a huge rush or anything, so waiting on them to get back with me on my negotiations. And if all goes well on that, then hopefully I will be closing in early April and getting moved in out in Cincinnati here soon. So aside from that, in terms of personal, like I said, I was out there skiing in Park City. If anybody skis or snowboards, that place is legit. Like 10 out of 10, recommend to everybody. It was awesome. And I just started planning a trip to climb Mount Kilimanjaro with one of my buddies. So if anybody's done that, hit me up and let me know how that is. But other than that, that's all I got.
You said this is currently bank owned, the house you're buying or trying to buy?
Yeah, it's Freddie Mac.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just so for anyone unaware, those are historically and very consistently very long timelines as far as, like, getting back and forth with the decision makers of those. So what Gage is dealing with is very common. Obviously foreclosures aren't as common nowadays, but the last 10 years or so, even as I was buying personal residences and stuff, you might not hear back on something for 2 weeks, and that's unfortunately kind of normal.
Yeah, and one other thing I put in on that is, so the real estate agent I'm working with in Kentucky, he's been working to kind of ease my anxieties on it all, because it's a big purchase for me, so it might not be a big deal to them, but for me, like, I want to know what's going on. So he has stayed in touch with the agent, and the agent basically texted him back and said, like, yo, leave me alone, like, you can stop texting me and trying to get answers from me. I'll get to you when I want to, basically. So yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. Anderson, anything else you want to add? Any other goals outside of the deal you're working on?
Really, it's just, have a plan when this one is over. Like when this one, I was going to ask you when somebody else was talking about, I forget what was said, but when should I start marketing these, I guess, is another question for you. Like, should I start as soon as I close? What do you think?
So something I've done that's worked well, and this may be difficult for some people because we do almost the same exact finishes over and over and over and over. So, like, I have 50 units over 10 properties that look almost identical, right? So that not everybody has that. But what I do is, like, when I have a tentative, like, completion date on units, then I start marketing them, right? So, like, for example, on the 28 unit, we are working on 3 more right now that'll probably be ready May 1st, and by April 1st we'll have that marketing out. But I'm using photos from previously completed units because they're identical. Now, when I didn't have that, I would take renovations from other similar apartments and use that in marketing. But I always put in my description, Facebook, Zillow, whatever, that these photos are not necessarily identical to the unit being marketed or whatever. I'd have to look at the language, but somehow I phrased it well where it's like, hey, just these pictures are symbolic of what you're renting. They're not necessarily identical.
Yeah.
And so I put that disclaimer on there, but I've never had a problem with it. Never had anybody complain when they see the finished product versus what they saw marketing. They're always happy with it. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, another piece of kind of what I just asked you. This other deal I had under contract that I just walked away from. Basically, it was a decent deal. This one has way more upside, which is why I chose to just focus on this one. but my wife made a Facebook marketplace post of an apartment on Cheviot Avenue, or on Harrison Avenue in Cheviot, you know, at the high end of what we thought we'd get on rent, $1,600 a month for a 3-bedroom, just to see if there was a market for it. And it was like Joe said, it was a different building we had done, but similar finishes with, you know, the same cabinets, same kind of countertops, exposed brick. Bathrooms would pretty much look the same, just to see like, hey, are we going to get interest at this price? Like, does the deal make sense? And like in 4 days, she had like 42 responses. And Joe said, really, if you were to post that to like West Side groups on Facebook, like you're going to get 10 times that. So that kind of solidified the deal. On this deal I'm working on now, I haven't done it yet because I asked the agent for permission, and he's like afraid to ask the owner. So like I'm just kind of waiting on that. But just knowing what I know about Reading, I know there's a high demand, so I'm kind of
Yeah, on your particular deal, I would have zero concerns just because of, you know, there's other good comps out there you can comp it off of, and
yeah.
knowing that area so well. But if you don't know an area, or if you're like, let's say you're buying in, you know, Houston, Texas, and you don't know that area at all,
Yeah,
running test ads like Anderson's talking about is a really good strategy.
like just putting up a faux kind of post, seeing how much feedback you get or what kind of feedback, and like Facebook. Zillow does not let you do it unless you put the exact address from what I saw. But yeah, that's kind of like something I'm trying to get on next with this deal I'm working on, is see what we think we can maximize rents at. But other than that, goals is just basically get this deal done, kill it on this deal, and then find the next one. This would be like my first bigger deal that I think is going to be a stepping stone to the next couple deals. So I'm really just trying to focus on this for now.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have to have you come back and you know, give us an
I'll come
update.
back if we close. I'll come back if any
Yeah.
updates. I'll come back.
Yeah, that'd be cool to get the progress as you guys work through it.
Yeah.
All right, Tiwi.
Hey guys, so primarily on the health front, been trying to do the cardio more often, so that's going pretty good on a 7-day Peloton streak right now. On my goals, for those of you that don't know, I have a 10 unit in Norwood. I got at least up around New Year's, had to get 90 days of 90% occupancy. So hit that, and I've been trying to refinance that with some Fannie Mae debt. And, you know, we did everything. We got the property condition assessment report, it got the certificate of occupancy, got the site survey, and the appraisal came back good. That came back at 1.67 million based on the 9 units we have rented, which is great.
Is that 1.67?
Yeah.
167 a door? Are you serious? That's insane. Congrats, man. Holy crap. That's incredible. That's literally insane.
Yeah, I mean, I paid what I thought was a lot for it. I thought I probably overpaid by like 50 or like 75K or so. I paid 925. So to be at 1.67 is good. They came back at 1.48, and then my lender kind of fought them. I guess they did their hand-to-hand combat and got him up to 1.67. So that was all going well. And then 3 days before closing, a zoning issue came up. And so it's a grandfathered property. It's multifamily, but it's in an R2 zone, which is fine. It's grandfathered, except for there's one clause in the Norwood zoning code. So get ready for this, DJ, that says if you're in an R2 zone and the property gets destroyed by natural disaster, then you have to conform to the existing zoning map, which is single family and duplexes. And so Fannie Mae didn't want to deal with that, even though traditionally they have, and they've done waivers, and my lender's gotten plenty of zoning waivers past them. But like last week, they just said, nope, we're not doing it anymore. So now we're flipping over to Freddie as they have less issues. And I'm also looking at a different quote I got from a debt fund, which would be a much higher payment, but it would be more cash out. So hopefully, it won't be like starting from scratch since we have a lot of the third-party reports.
Are you allowed to use that appraisal for Freddie?
It's weird. It's like they said we can use some parts of it, but some parts we have to augment. So there is a little bit of rework there, and they have like different underwriting ratios, but I think we can use a lot of it, I would say. But the silver lining is like this other quote I got from this debt fund, would be like 100K more in net proceeds. So that's kind of what I wanted out of this whole thing was more net proceeds. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
But yeah, so I have my petition into the planning commission to go and try to have them rezone this as R3, since like literally on the other side of Allison Street, it's zoned R3. And as soon as you cross the street on Allison Street, now it's R2. So it's super arbitrary. So just trying to stay positive and gonna keep on going.
Are you dealing with Carrie over in Reading a lot?
In Reading?
Or not Reading, Norwood.
Is that like the
She's like the lady at the building department desk.
Yeah, she's really nice.
Talks
But
a
I'm
lot.
oh yeah, but like I just try to, try to schmooze. It's just so frustrating because I like go there to put in my application and she's like, well, it's got to be 10 days in a newspaper and I can't do it today. So you can't come to the April meeting. You have to come to the May meeting. And it's just like, they're just like moving at a snail's pace.
Right.
Man, so are your buildings 3 beds? What is the makeup of those?
So after renovation, I have three 3-bed, 2 bathrooms that rent for 1865 to 1990, and the rest are 2 bedrooms. Well, I also have an unrenovated 4-bedroom upstairs that's vacant.
Do you know what the square footage on those 3 bedrooms is?
I think it's 900 to 1,000. It's mostly what Joe said, two of them are rented out to, I'd say like early career working professional type people, dual income, and the other one is a college group.
Man, 167 a door though, man. That's awesome. Congrats. I'm sure DJ's probably having a wet dream right now hearing that.
Until you talk about the zoning.
I know, right? Yeah. Well, I don't think that's a problem for you at least.
Yeah, no, I hope not.
Anything else, TV?
No, that's it. I'll keep you guys updated.
Awesome.
Yeah, good luck, man.
Yeah, good luck and congrats on the appraisal. All right, Brian.
Yeah, everyone. So yeah, first I say as a newcomer, thanks for having me. Although I think I've already spoken to about half of you guys. But no, this has been awesome. So definitely plan to continue coming back. So I can second the networking thing. Just through this process with this one deal, met so many people. Still have a long list of people I need to talk to. So just learned a ton. Because since this, I've only been looking at like 2 to 4 plexes on market, and so this is a whole different ball game. So yeah, just underwriting. This was learned a ton. And so yeah, obviously my goal then is kind of the same as DJ, just would love to get to the finish line on this. So that's the major goal. And then personally, I joke about it with DJ, but personally, my goal is to make it in real estate and never read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I still have yet to read that book. Because I feel like I would keep hearing it, like, man, I got to be the first person to make it without ever doing that. So I'm always curious because obviously I hear about it every freaking second, but still haven't read it. So, but yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us. And I think Rich Dad Poor Dad is really meant to get you into real estate. So if you're already there, I think you're actually fine. I don't think there's really any actionable advice in that book that really matters. So it's more of a mindset thing. So I think you'll be fine.
Cool. That's good to hear.
All right, Ben.
Hey guys, yeah, update. I'm just trying to get into wholesaling, so trying to get that up and running. Have myself going with that. And then I'm in renewal season for my rentals. incredible. I'm surprised. I got a 30% increase in rents. Not on existing renters. I don't do that to existing renters, but once they move out, put it back to market. And then on a personal level, totally behind on keeping in shape because I threw out my back and I have plantar fasciitis. So not running and not lifting. I'm in what I call my fat Elvis stage. So I'm catching up on reading. I'm at 6 books and about to be into 7 for the year. So trying to get through those. And yeah, that's it for me, guys.
Awesome. Yeah, and I will add to the point about the rent increases. I'm it's kind of funny, right? You know, I was a cop for 10 years and it's like we renegotiate our contracts like 3 years at a time typically. And so you always know, like, you know, in 2010, I knew what I was going to make in 2013, right? It's kind of funny looking back at that process versus now. And it's like now I can literally look at my rental portfolio and say, like, okay, if we have a 5% increase across the board, I'm going to get X amount of revenue, you know, or cash flow, and I can kind of trickle that down. So it's interesting looking at that. And obviously as the portfolio has grown, like now that's become, you know, a pretty significant increase every year. And that's kind of my raise, so to speak. And a big chunk of my income just from simply, you know, keeping my tenants at market rates. And obviously, like Ben said, bringing in new tenants. And sometimes that might be a $200 or $300 jump on some of my properties once I've had a long-term tenant move out. So it's really cool to see that and kind of, you know, set your own income to a certain extent. I think you have more control of that in real estate than any other business. So it's definitely a really good point to make for people as you're growing your portfolios. So for me, the only real change for me is I just got a contract on a 3-bed, 3-bath condo in Eastgate. So that 7 condo deal that I talked about a month ago did not work out. I think I already talked about that. But that same complex, I actually had a wholesaler. I just saw post an ad in one of the local Facebook or the local investor groups. And he literally posted it at like 7 a.m. And I saw the address and I knew it was a street that I'd already looked at the condos on a month ago. And if you recall on that deal, I had 7 of those under contract at 90 a door. This was up for 30. So I knew right away that no matter how much work it needed, no matter how bad it was, if I could snag it at 30, it was going to be a good deal. So I literally commented on the dude's post, said, I want it, gave him my email, didn't hear anything back. Like 30 minutes go by. I sent him a Facebook message, didn't get a response. And then I like clicked in the like see more of his ad. Like the only line that wasn't in the post was his phone number. So I was actually able to find it. And I was literally dropping my kid off at school, called the guy. I'm like, hey, I want that. He's like, you need to go look at it. I'm like, no, I want it. He's like, no, you really need to go look at it. I'm like, all right, I'll go look at it. So I was like, can I go at 4? And he's like, that's fine, but I have like 10 showings scheduled. And I'm like, I was like, when's your first showing? He's like, at 9. And this is like 7:30. Or maybe 8. I was dropping my kid off. So I'm like, all right, I'm going there. I go there. It's total dump, drywall falling in, roof's leaking. I mean, it's like a full gut, right? And I'm like, okay, as long as I can do this full gut for 60K more than I was going to do with a full gut at 90, it's going to work out. So I called the dude back and I'm like, yeah, I want it. And I was like, send me that contract. I was like, I don't want anybody else looking at this. And he's like, all right, I'll send it to you. And I signed it before the second guy got to look at it. So talking about back to our point an hour ago, where like Anderson said, speed sometimes is the name of the game. You know, that was certainly the case. And just, you know, I don't want to call it luck, but I was in the right place at the right time and was able to make a move on it. And so this deal, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, but it is a just like I did on the one last year that I've talked about, it's going to be another lease option for an employee where I'm putting up the cash for purchase and material. He's going to do most of the work. And at the end of the day, I'm going to have about a 20K net proceed with no money in the deal. And then about 300 a month in cash flow, with them being responsible for everything, like a triple net lease, so to speak. And, you know, so I like these deals, right? They're kind of win-win. And my employee, basically, if he exercises the option to buy it, he's going to have probably 40 or 50K in equity day one. So I mean, it's a good deal for him too. And obviously I'm happy to talk more about that another time. But anyway, that's really the only update for me. 28 units moving along. And other than that, I've just been working some real estate deals and that you guys have already heard about. And yeah, I think that's it. I've been playing basketball with Anderson. That's on the personal side. That's been my exercise. So one day he'll be as good as me, but we'll keep teaching him how to play. Cool. Anything else? Any other questions, comments? So any feedback for go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I was just gonna say maybe someday you could touch on your schedule and consistency for you, Anderson. I'm hearing a lot about being at the right place at the right time, and I think that comes with consistency, and I think that would be helpful to elaborate on that. If you say every day I wake up, I have my coffee, 7 to 7:15. I'm going through all the Facebook things, and then I do check my wholesaling, and then I check this, that, and the other, whatever it might be. I think that might be help to elaborate on at some point.
I wish I could be the person to set an example for that. I am horrible at that. Like I am literally like a squirrel chasing cars. Like every day is different. None of my days look the same. Especially right now, like, my family's been sick, my mom's been sick. It's like my work days are literally from potentially 7 a.m. to midnight and, scattered all in between there. But I think Anderson's probably a little bit more structured than I am. So he might have some insight on that, but I'm chaos.
The one thing I do that I kind of said earlier is like, I got alerts set up. So like I have access to the MLS because I'm a licensed agent. But like these neighborhoods and towns and stuff, when I used to flip houses, like I would have something come up in Norwood and I'd go look at it as soon as I could. I'd drop what I was doing and go look at it because I knew at the time Norwood was going to go quick if it was a good deal. Same with kind of what I'm doing now. I basically drop what I'm doing to go look at it. If it pencils out on paper real quick, I'm dropping what I do to go look at it.
Yeah, I think it also depends like what mode you're in, right? Like I as an investor, like just focusing on the investor side, like I have modes where I'm buying, buy. Like a couple years ago, I bought like 3 deals in a month, and that's like not typical for me. And then I also have times where I'm like, I can't look at anything because I'll buy it and I don't want to buy anything. And I literally like have to put the blinders on. And because I'm focused on operations and I'm focused on rehabs, and since the stuff I buy is such heavy rehabs, like I know when I'm overextending myself financially, bandwidth, time. I've also have a baby and another one on the way. So like I have to be mindful of that. So like I think as you go through, a 5-10 year cycle of investing, you'll start to see these patterns and you'll kind of understand yourself better. And so like when I'm in like an acquisition phase and I'm like, I want to buy a couple deals in the next 6 months, that's when I get way more like, like you're talking about, Ben, where I'm like, I'm time blocking an hour a day to underwrite deals. I'm calling all my, agents I know that have deal flow. I'm calling brokers. I'm checking the MLS, 30 minutes a day, every day. I'm checking LoopNet. I'm doing my own direct marketing, whatever that looks like. Right. But I'm just saying like, that's when I get kind of focused and organized. But this deal just, again, I don't want to call it luck after I just had that whole rant about it not being luck, but I just happened to be on Facebook at the right time and I saw it and I happened to be the first guy, it's 15 minutes from my house. I was the first person there and I locked it up. So that was just kind of opportunity meeting.
So sometimes like same thing happened to me one time where I was just scrolling Facebook on a Sunday and this house in Norwood came up, it was like in one of those agent only groups and it was basically before they listed on the MLS. Messaged them, hey, I want to go through it in 30 minutes. Went through it, submitted an offer, and ours was contingent on financing. They got a cash offer the next day, but we jumped on it, first one to walk through it. So it really did. And sometimes you can feel out the agent or the situation and know if you can push. But every situation's different, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think sometimes you have to be aggressive, right? Like I didn't know this guy at all, this wholesaler. Never did a deal with him. He has no loyalty to me, but I told him flat out, I literally said, and I meant it, hey, I want this. Send me the paperwork now. Basically, without so many words, I said, if you wait and dick around until the next guy looks at it, I'm not buying it. And I meant it. And I would have stuck to, it wasn't a bluff. Like if it would have rolled around 10:30 and he's trying to feel out these other people and see if he can get more money, I'm out. I don't care that much. So sometimes you have to know when to pressure, and I think he took me at my word and was like, okay, this dude's serious. This dude's got the cash. He's telling me he's doing it. He's telling me what he wants. And then I followed through with it, right? I signed the contract right away. I literally wired the earnest money within 30 minutes of getting the contract to his title company. Like, it's all, I put my money where my mouth was after I kind of pushed on him to get it done. So, those are just some things that you'll do once you go through the motion sometimes. All right, well, I don't want to take any more time, guys. I appreciate everybody staying and hanging out. Like I said, 2 weeks from now, tentatively, we're planning for DJ and Brian to talk about this 10-unit deal they're doing in Norwood. Very similar to what we did tonight. So hopefully you guys can join us and get some more value out of that. If you think of anything we didn't talk about, any other questions, any other angles of how we can look at kind of the deal breakdown, please let me know, and I'm happy to make sure we cover that. Anderson.
One other thing I kind of forgot to mention when I was doing my whole spiel on my deal is about they have it listed at between 12 and 13,000 square feet. So if you do the quick math on that, it's like $38 a square foot I'm buying this at. And then I'm going to be all into it for less than $100 a square foot. So that's just a quick way I looked at it. I'm like, this is a fucking great deal, or the potential to be a great deal.
And so let's say that yours ends up being an 8-unit, right? I think that's kind of what you're looking at.
Yeah.
What would your all-in price per unit be approximately?
Like 110 per unit.
Yeah. And then you think what's your ARV on that, you think? Like per unit?
I don't know, 160 maybe, something like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
1.5 divided by 8.
And then that's not a good way to look at this, but the reason why I like that question is because when you, like a lot of this time, like we're talking about, you're trying to do this so quick, right? And you're like, hey, can I get this at 50 a door? Does it make sense at 75 a door? And when you're talking about bigger deals, that's sometimes, like a quick napkin math way to look at it. And it helps you determine purchase, rehab, and ARV. You can figure that out in, 30 minutes. And is this worth spending the time to looking at? So that's why I like, understanding the big numbers will help you understand the small numbers. And talking, obviously, like you just heard from Tiwi, if you'd asked me 7 years ago, would we have ever had apartments in Norwood valued at 167 a door, I would have laughed at you. But, here we are 8 years later. So it's kind of incredible how far values have came in our market. All right. Awesome, guys. Well, I will see you all on the 5th of April. And everyone have a good 2 weeks. I'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
Peace.